Again, Gooners. What number is this of the Loose Cannon? Don't really know. I don't expect anybody out there cares. But those of you that are subscribing, thank you very much. With no more ado, I'm going to tell you what's on the menu. Here's the menu. Quick flash. I'll read it to you because, you know, some of you might not be able to read that stuff at the top, for instance, which is written in almost braille. Simon Mignolet, got the latest on him. Well, it's not that latest. Well, actually it is. I just checked a few minutes ago. So there you go. That's the latest news, in my opinion. Anybody want to argue? Perhaps. But don't email me about it. Isco, the latest on Isco. I always start breaking into a Michael Jackson song. Sorry, the Jacksons. Every time Isco's name comes up. No, I'm not going to go there. Blame it on the boogie, is it? Or something like that. Then Cazorla. Is he the Juan Mata light? Well, that was discussed in the recent podcast that you must listen to, of course, the Gooner podcast. I wasn't on the latest one. Been really busy lately. But anyway, didn't get an invite. Well, I do sometimes. I'm not completely out of contention yet, but I feel a bit like Jenkinson feels at Arsenal, probably. You've got the more experienced Sanya in the way, but does Sanya really want to play for Arsenal anymore? Well, I've already talked about that. I don't expect I'll get onto it, but you never know, I might do. Then we've got Arteta. Is he slowing the game down? These are all Gooner podcast topics, by the way, so you might want to check it out. Theo Walcott. He can't play with anyone, according to Steve Ashford from the Gooner podcast. You can bet your life I'm going to disagree with that, but I'll talk more about it later, as well about the situation. Who is the better of the two Rambo got compared to Parlour? It was an unusual comparison in my opinion, but anyway, more talk of that later. And then there's the celebrations after we finished fourth. Some interesting comments again on the Gooner podcast got me thinking. I've got a few things to say on that. Then there's the whole landscape. The landscape of the Premier League is completely different now with new managers. Obviously, we're sticking with what we've got. Going to discuss that briefly, but mostly it's going to be, or is it mostly? I'm not sure. But certainly a lot of transfer news. I might even mention the FFP. What's that? Financial fair play. Are we ever going to see that happen? I don't know, but anyway, I might even allude to it at some point. The names on the door at the moment, not the indoor, because our door never seems to open inwards. It only opens outwards, or apart from when it's returning loan players. So a bit of news on that. But players that we could be in for: Clement Grenier of Lyon, Stevan Jovetic of Fiorentina, and Ruben Garcia, of course, we've been heavily linked to as well. So anyway, without further ado, let's get cracking. What shall I start with? Oh, Martin Skrtel. Let's start with Martin Skrtel. I didn't mention him on the menu, but well, I was just reading today that Martin Skrtel could, I say could in inverted commas, underlined and in bold, could be arriving at Arsenal for £12 million if you believe the media, which I don't. So I'm not seeing Martin Skrtel arriving. But one thing you can say is Liverpool have done some transfer business early. They're signing Kolo Touré on a free transfer. You have to think that wouldn't have been a bad move for Arsenal, would it, to bring Kolo Touré back? I thought the reason we got rid of Kolo Touré was because he upset William Gallas. But here we go. He's off to Liverpool. I can't say I'm overly impressed with our lack of business in this transfer window. I'm saying it every single year. And this year, it's even more disappointing because we only finished fourth. It's an achievement that we finished fourth with this mediocre squad. And here we go again. We're not going to be spending any money. Arsene Wenger's on French TV talking about this player and that player. But talking about the players alerts the other clubs to what Arsene Wenger's looking for. It gets out in the media. Next thing you know, some other club has signed the player that we might have been interested in. But we're only interested in a player if the price is right, and 9 times out of 10 the price isn't right for Arsene Wenger, so we miss out on 9 out of 10 of our transfer targets. In fact, I'd go further and say we miss out on 99 out of 100 of our transfer targets. Of course I don't know this as a fact, but that's how I feel. And obviously the guys dealing with the transfer negotiations haven't really been doing their job as well as we would have liked them to in recent seasons. Of course we signed Cazorla, that was a pretty good signing, but I'll come to that subject now as I'm talking about it. Cazorla has been described as Juan Mata light. He's been described by the Gooner podcast team as a player that wouldn't walk into any of the other top teams. And Well, that possibly is true. It's hard to argue with it. I mean, Cazorla, when he's on form, is up there with the best though, and I think in terms of value for money, we've done really well with his capture. I think he faded a bit nearer the end of the season, and as some of the Gooner podcast team said, I did agree with it. That Cazorla sometimes he's a little bit greedy, holds on to the ball a bit too long, and loses it, and he certainly was doing it in the latter part of the season. So hopefully he'll start next season the way he started last season, and then I'm not so sure it's fair to compare him to Juan Mata, but obviously we've not been the big spenders, have we? So you're not going to get the best. I think we get the best value for money, but we don't necessarily get the best players. So that's my take on Cazorla. Who else should we talk about? We're talking to Spaniards, of course. We've been linked with what's the guy's name? Ruben Garcia. Well, he's an under-19 Spain international, so you can see us making a move for the winger, but other reports say that we won't be interested because we've got enough young players at the club already. But these young players are not really hitting the first team on a regular basis, are they? So we might want to look at strengthening that area. And obviously we've got Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain will have a much better season in this forthcoming one. I predicted he'd take a bit of a downturn in terms of form last season, which of course he did, and I'm predicting he's going to have a much better season this time around with more experience, and he's going to learn a lot from what happened last season. He's a very clever player as well as a strong one. So I am anticipating a really good future for Oxlade-Chamberlain next season. That's my prediction, and I don't think we particularly need to bring in a winger. But if we were going to bring in a winger, why not Isco? Isco he's a player that obviously Cazorla knows, but it looks like Isco will join Manchester City as soon as Manuel Pellegrini becomes their new manager, if indeed he does. It's not a done deal just yet, but Isco's been on our radar for a while, and every time I've seen him, I've only seen him in bits, but every time I've seen him, well, I've got to say I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen. So I would like that kind of calibre of player joining us. And I'm not so sure Isco's been linked with many other clubs at the moment. He's been linked with us for at least 2 years, probably 3 years. So about time we got him, eh? So yeah, bring in Isco. That's what I'm saying. And yeah, he's still being linked with us in the media. Then who else? Who else? Oh, interestingly, I saw this. It wasn't quite a headline. I think it was like the sub headline or subheading. I mean, it said Arsene Wenger's got one hand on the transfer window latch. Now, the only objection I had to that, I thought it was quite creative, but the only objection I had to that was, why hasn't he got 2 hands on the transfer window latch? One hand is not enough. If you've got 2, then you're going to open it and bring somebody in. And as I said, that doesn't look like it's going to happen in the very near future, even though the transfer window officially opens very, very soon indeed. They say it opens, but in reality, the players signed from the 1st of July. That's when they can sign the contracts, obviously, but they don't actually join us till the 1st of July. So let's not get too excited, eh? And I think the way we deal on the transfer market is last minute. Has to be last minute. So anyway, so there's that, and then there's what else? Arteta. Does he slow the game down? I'm going to answer that very quickly. No. I don't think he slows the game down. I think he's playing deeper than he should be playing, and as a result, we're not seeing the best of him. We're not seeing the best of a lot of our players because we played them in the wrong position. So Arteta is one of those. And for much of the season, obviously, Aaron Ramsey, a player I said I'd mention, he's also played out of position, done a pretty good job for the team. Yes, he does give the ball away, but no more so than, say, Denilson used to. Like Diaby, does Diaby not give the ball away as much as Rambo? Well, if anybody can contest that with me, I'd be interested to talk to them, because every time I count the number of times the ball is given away, Diaby 9 times out of 10 or more than that tops the list for giving the ball away unnecessarily. And the thing is, what you get with Rambo, you do get effort, and I don't know who said he doesn't run back, because he certainly does. So I'm not going to knock Rambo's effort. I do think his distribution is iffy at times. I think he's better in the final third rather than defending, being a defensive midfielder like he's had to play some of the time. But you're never really gonna show your best if you keep getting moved around. And I still think, because of his age, because of the injuries he's had, with the best is yet to come from Rambo. I'm absolutely convinced by that. to compare him to Ray Parlour is a difficult one, because Ray Parlour, he was also hard working, and somebody said in the Gooner podcast that that Rambo has more skill than Ray Parlour. I have to admit, I agree with that. It doesn't mean he's a better player though. Ray Parlour was a phenomenal player because of his work rate, and Rambo, even though he does work hard, he can't match Ray Parlour for work rate. And not only that, his spirit, of course. But both of them have got, you know, I think both are near 10 out of 10 for that. It's very difficult to compare players of now to players of the past. But Ray Parlour obviously contributed a lot to Arsenal, played a hell of a lot of games and scored quite a lot of goals. And so Rambo's got a lot to do to be mentioned in the same breath as Ray Parlour. Although I must admit, I do believe that Rambo has, let's say, superior skill or technique. Probably not skill, because skill is how you apply your technique. So he's got superior technique, let's say, but not necessarily superior skill. So that's my take on that. Then we've got, what else have we got? Other players that could be coming in. The new Nasri, Clement, Grenier of Lyon. Could he be on the way in? Well, now that everyone's been alerted to the fact that he's a new Samir Nasri, Arsene Wenger described him as that apparently on French TV. I've got this funny feeling he won't be joining us, because as you know, we always deal with players that we don't mention. Well, mostly it's like that. Another player who could be coming in or not is Stevan Jovetic, but the good news is he wants a new experience. So if he wants to finish fourth with guaranteed Champions League season after season, perhaps he'll join us for 30 million euros. That price tag may well stop us from buying him. And it was interesting, on the podcast, on the Gooner podcast, they were talking about, one of the guys said that Olivier Giroud's been a failure. I don't see him as a failure. He nearly scored 20 goals last season. How is that a failure? I would persist with Giroud, certainly. I wouldn't mind seeing another striker come in, but I don't think necessarily we need another striker. I think we do need a midfielder. I wouldn't mind seeing another striker, a versatile striker, and probably a right back as opposed to a centre back, because I saw somewhere on the net that Mikel could be kind of upgraded, if you like, to the first team, to first team duties, and I think it's about time he was. He's an excellent player, and I think he deserves it. He's always done well, I feel, and obviously it does seem like it's curtains for Vermaelen and Sagna. So I think most of the transfer business will be defensive transfer business, even though we did keep a lot of clean sheets near the end of the season. I see us hopefully bringing in a new goalkeeper like Simon Mignolet, who I've not really talked about, but he's got 2 years left on his current deal. He's going to cost £10 million, and as well as ourselves, Liverpool are interested. Obviously, Reina on the way out there. So Mignolet, yeah, I would like to see him at Arsenal. I have to say, he's Player of the Year for Sunderland for a reason. That's because he's good. I thought so before. He's obviously getting another Belgian in might make Vermaelen change his mind. It's not to say that he's definitely decided he's going to leave, but as I said about this time last year, I didn't think Vermaelen should be made captain. I said it should go to Arteta. In effect, that's really what happened at the end of the season, with Arteta being captain most of the time. So anyway, with Mignolet, yeah, I think it's worth the money. I'd pay the 10 million. Just bring in a decent goalkeeper who's going to be consistent throughout the season, because both Fabianski and Szczesny had good ends to the season, but what about the beginning? And okay, you can look at the fixture list and blame a lot on that, say the fixture list was so unkind to us that of course we weren't going to win many games, and I did say that, but nonetheless you don't want goalkeepers throwing the ball into the net as well, and they didn't quite do that, but they got pretty close to it. Both of our Poland internationals were guilty of a lot of mistakes, so that's why I'd bring in a different goalkeeper. Just mix things up a bit and maybe bring out the best in players, because one of the guys on the Gooner podcast said that Kieran Gibbs was his player of the season, or certainly the most improved player, and it's hard to disagree with that. But with Kieran Gibbs, you have to say the reason why he improved perhaps is because he was pushed by the new signing, of course, the Spanish guy coming in. I can't think of his name all of a sudden, but But yeah, when the new signing came in, it really made him sort of improve his game quite a lot. And as a result, of course, because of Nacho Monreal, he did improve his game a lot. And then consequently, we saw a better Kieran Gibbs than we had seen before. The thing with Sagna, obviously, to some extent, he's been pushed by having Jenkinson, hoping to oust him from the first team. But it does seem anyway that he has been kind of sitting in the back seat, as it were, not really playing the way we know he can. So anyway, just as I was talking, I was looking at Sky Sports and seeing that it looks like Suarez is going to stay at Liverpool. I think Liverpool are going to become a much stronger team next season as well. But that brings me on to the other teams. Do I think that Tottenham are going to do well under AVB, aka Taz, the Tasmanian Devil? That's his voice, by the way. No, I think they'll do just as well. If they lose Gareth Bale, then they've lost basically their whole team. And it's a big if, though, because Tottenham do hold on to their top players, so a bit longer than Arsenal at least. Obviously, they've sold people like Michael Carrick to Manchester United in the past, but he was never a top player, still isn't a top player. They've sold Berbatov also to Manchester United. He was a very good player, but not the same level as Gareth Bale. And I don't know if he's going to move on or not, but that will play a part in how much we have to strengthen. If our aim is just to finish above Tottenham, then we should do it. We should do it at a canter if they lose Gareth Bale. But then again, if they lose Gareth Bale, they'll have a lot of money coming in, and Tottenham are the sort of club that actually spend the money that comes in. Whereas, what can I say about us? Doesn't always happen, does it? So I'm not saying I would like us to be run by somebody like Daniel Levy. Please don't get me wrong. He's not my favourite person by a long way, because one of his problems is he changes manager too often, I feel. And bringing in the Tasmanian Devil, well, they've done okay, I suppose. Finishing 5th, is that okay? I don't think so. I think they'd be disappointed, even though they played a lot of exciting football, and Gareth Bale obviously was their outstanding player of the season. So, yeah, we wouldn't be happy, would we, if we were Spurs fans? We're obviously a lot happier, and some people said we celebrated too much finishing 4th. And, well, interestingly enough, one of the guys on the podcast, Schooner Podcast, said we should get a trophy for finishing 4th, just like they do in the playoffs, because the playoff winner gets a trophy. So, in a sense, it wasn't quite a playoff, although it nearly turned into a playoff against Chelsea, as we were so close to finishing joint 3rd. We should possibly get a trophy for finishing 4th. But if that's the case, then obviously it's got to go all the way down to or 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Maybe 2nd, 3rd and 4th and 5th should all be in a playoff or in playoffs. Well, I think I need to think about that one a bit, because that doesn't make any sense, does it? But anyway, I think there is something to be said for having a trophy. But then again, would we fancy having a playoff final against Spurs at Wembley for the right to play in the Champions League? I would rather just beat them by the 1 point like we did, because my nerves were completely frayed on that final day of the season. I don't want to go through that again. That's why I want us to strengthen the team, so we can comfortably finish. Well, first would be nice, but is it realistic? I don't know. But then when you look at the unrest at Chelsea, Mourinho might come back. He might steady the ship. I think if Mourinho comes back, they say never go back again to your former club. It's never as good as the first time. All these kind of cliches come out, but I think Mourinho will absolutely, well, how can I put it? He's gonna just come in there if he does go to Chelsea, and I think he'll bring in some top players with him, and he'll make the team gel and difficult to beat. So I can't see how Mourinho will fail at Chelsea coming back. The only thing that can fail is his relationship with Roman Abramovich. But now that they've been through their ups and downs, perhaps they've learnt, or maybe one side has learnt, or both sides have learnt from their mistakes. So I see a stronger Chelsea. So I see a stronger Chelsea, a stronger Liverpool, possibly weaker Spurs next season. Manchester United, I think they're going to be weaker, obviously. So Alex will be about, but David Moyes is not quite as charismatic, let's say, as Alex. That's putting it mildly. I think David Moyes is a good manager, but I don't think he's a great manager. And Pellegrini, well, at Manchester City, I think they're making a mistake, keep changing manager like this. I think they would have been better off staying with Roberto Mancini, but they've decided they're not going to do that. I think they may well pay a price. Whether or not they'll finish below us is another story. So there you go. That's at the moment. Obviously, I'm hedging my bets until a bit of transfer business is done. But I'm saying teams we've got to watch out for next season are Chelsea, possibly Liverpool. But now I'm starting to think we could finish second, because the other, well, it's going to be difficult getting above Manchester United. But you don't know how this managerial change is going to affect them. Look what happened. I mean, I know it's a long time ago, but when Sir Matt Busby left Manchester United, he was in the background. He had some role at the club, and the managers came and went after him, and they ended up getting relegated. Now, clearly that's not going to happen, but they won't get relegated. But nonetheless, I think the role of manager is that important that I think United are going to suffer greatly from the loss of Sir Alex. It wouldn't even surprise me if Sir Alex returns from retirement. But anyway, that's up to them what they do. Obviously, we've got to sort ourselves out, and that does involve doing some transfer business instead of just talking about players we like. It's got to stop. It's got to stop, Arsenal. We've got to start bringing in players. The sooner, the better. Meanwhile, one player who will be coming back is Andre Santos. Grenier have said he's too expensive to keep. So welcome back, Santos. I know a lot of people are slagging him off, but I'm telling you, I don't think he's as bad as some people would make out. Right, a quick read for you. Talking to managers just a moment ago, well, obviously there was... Oh, look at that. See, Aspas has agreed he's going to be joining Liverpool from Celta Vigo. That's Iago Aspas. So you see Liverpool doing their business early, and that augurs well for their future. Meanwhile, we're just sitting on our backsides as usual. But anyway, yeah, I was talking about managers, how important it is. I'm pleased that we've stuck with Wenger, at least for now. He's got 1 year left now, and let's hope he can bring us some silverware, and then perhaps he'll sign another new deal. I wouldn't be against that, because I really think we should just try and keep the ship steady. And if Steve Bold is having more and more of an influence, as the guys on the podcast suggest, then so be it. And eventually he can be groomed to take over from Arsene Wenger. But it should be a slow process. I think when you're a football club, it pays to be conservative in these kind of things. Conservative with a small c. I mean, just slow change, evolutionary change, not revolutions. Although revolutions can work, well, heads roll, and it costs more money to fix the problems, and so on and so on. And the Manchester City, obviously, last season they won't put down as a successful one. But anyway, we'll see. I'm personally saying let's do it the Arsenal way. Stick with stability, and well, this is a guy from the past, Joe Mercer. I'm not sure if I told you I was going to talk about him, but this is also from Charles Buchan's Football Monthly, and yeah, I'm going to read this to you, and hope you enjoy it, and then I'll be saying goodbye to you. Oh, before that, I've just got to throw this one in. I wonder how it's going to be with BT covering football, because I've had, well, I don't want to tell you all the details, but BT have been hitting me with bills, ridiculous bills. I've had to pay them. They've been threatening me. I paid them everything that I supposedly owe. I was so angry about it that I contacted the ombudsman, and I got told they don't deal with these contractual disputes. Basically, it was I agreed a new deal, and then they told me there's a cooling off period, and then I decided to terminate very quickly after agreeing it, because it was ridiculous. The amount they wanted, £40 a month for line rental. So I just said no, I'm not going to do it. Then they charged me for 1 whole year. So you can imagine why I'm annoyed with BT. And you have to wonder what kind of TV coverage they're going to give us when it comes to football next season. All I'm saying is my advice is don't sign anything or agree anything with BT, because there obviously is no cooling off period, no matter what they tell you on the phone, because I got told I had 30 days cooling off. Well, clearly that's not true. Then they told me there would be an investigation of what happened with phone conversation. Then I phoned again. They told me there was no investigation. And then after that, they started sending me text messages. If they've been charging me for those text messages, I'm going to go nuts. But before I go nuts, let's read, eh? Let's read. Joe Mercer, an Arsenal type all his life. And then it's just got says. Looks like it got cut off there, but anyway. It says underneath, only the ignorant think they know it all. Joe Mercer, well, this is a picture, so I'm not going to, it's no point reading the caption and the picture. It's got Winston Churchill there. He was introducing Jimmy Logie to the Prime Minister before the Cup final at Wembley. Anyway, here we go. It had never occurred to me that there could be such pride in being captain of a losing team. It's a bit like finishing fourth, I suppose. But when I led Arsenal away after Newcastle's Cup final win at Wembley, I felt as much honour at being associated with this great bunch of fighters as I had ever felt in a winning side. Obviously, we feel this team is a team of fighters as well, the one we've got now. They've done very well to finish fourth. I've said so before, let's not continue with that. And now looking back on that unforgettable day, I find it curiously linked in my mind with a remark which Leslie Compton made to me once. He told me, Joe, you've been an Arsenal player all your life without knowing it. It was one of the kindest compliments I've ever received, and it set me wondering, what makes an Arsenal type of footballer? The answer is not easy to explain, but I believe it is based largely on the conviction that the club is far greater than anyone in it, whether they are directors, manager or players. So many clubs seem to revolve around one or two men. That is not so at Arsenal, for the club has had the good fortune to have a continuity of ideas and method due to the single-mindedness of such managers as Herbert Chapman, George Allison and Tom Whittaker. There has been no interruption to the building of the Arsenal tradition. Even when I was an Everton player, I found the tag Lucky Arsenal was unjustified. It was not luck, it was method. I soon realised that the method was not easily come by. It had to be worked for. And it depended enormously on one factor, which I discovered very quickly, the assurance that if one player is having a bad time, there is always someone to rally round and ease him over it. These points Arsenal have taught me. Yet looking back on my long career in the game, I cannot help but reflect how much there is still for me to learn. I am certain that it is only the fellow with little experience and limited knowledge who knows the lot and believes that everything is easy. No one could ever justly claim to know all there is to know about such a contradictory and complex game. Just listen to acknowledged authorities discussing a team. Note how their opinions vary about its rights and wrongs. Who is to say dogmatically that one or the other is correct? Consider too the elementary needs of a good player. See how they contradict each other. The player must retain his individuality and play in his own natural way. He should not conform to type and must do the unexpected. Yet he must sink his individuality to conform to the good of the team and not play well at a teammate's expense or do anything which might mislead his colleagues. I expect there are many ways of reconciling all those points, but the man who imagines that his particular way is the one and only way is in for a lot of trouble. Obviously, Arsene Wenger has been accused of that, but one thing I forgot to mention is Theo Walcott was described by Steve on the Gooner podcast as somebody who can't play with anyone. I think he should talk to his Theo's England teammates to find out if that is true. And Theo's such an unselfish player. How come he's got so many assists if that were the case? So I think I better rest my case on that. Otherwise I'll be ranting and raving about the virtues of Theo Walcott, last season's top goal scorer. What more can I say? Anyway, let's hear more from Joe Mercer. Incidentally, how I hate the expression tactical, I would substitute the phrase common sense. And that digression takes me a stage further in this chat about football philosophy. 1 ounce of experience is worth a ton of theory. There is certainly quite enough trouble just in playing football without adding fantastic theoretical talk. The more simple, the more direct and straightforward we are, the more successful we will be. What a wealth of wisdom and experience are condensed into Matt Busby's statement, the easy thing quick. The only tactics which have any appeal to me are those gained by experience of actually playing football. The object of a good coach, in my view, Should be. How little can I say? Not how much. But don't get the impression from this that I am anti-coaching altogether. I do feel that it has its place in the game, although I would not rank it so importantly as some of those in high places. So that's quite interesting because, of course, Arsene Wenger has been accused of not really being that tactical. Obviously, his substitutions always take place pretty much in the 70th minute. And so I suppose to some extent he does keep things simple and he lets the players express themselves, to use a corny phrase. And maybe that is the right way. Who knows? It's certainly not been the wrong way, has it? If you're finishing fourth, it's not a disaster. Anyway, he continues, I am sure that the best time and place for coaching is while a match is in progress. As proof of this argument, I offer for your consideration the work of men such as Peter Doherty of Doncaster Rovers and Ray Parlour of Hull City. Think how valuable to younger members of their teams the advice and example of Doherty and Parlour have been. The game has always had and always will have its outstanding characters. Men who, by their natural leadership and personality, do the job of player-manager unconsciously. Throughout football history, there have been these men who taught as well as they played. Men such as Warney Cresswell, Frank Barson, and Jock Thompson. Most of these names, I've got to say, these last few names, I sort of recognise only very slightly. But Jock Thompson is not ringing any bells for me. Those last three especially, I thought, who? But I wouldn't be. I would like somebody to tell me more about them. I might look them up on the internet just to find out more, but or maybe I won't just now. But anyway, these names should never be lost, of course. I think it's really important that we stay in touch with our football history. My advice to youngsters who are fortunate to be playing alongside stars of this calibre, and the name Jimmy Hagan comes immediately to mind, is to digest all the knowledge they can pass on to you. Be honest with yourself if you are criticised. The reason will probably be there for you to see if you have the sense to recognise it. There are, I know, some older players who criticise youngsters to cover up for their own shortcomings. Here, I've seen that a lot and experienced it when I was a youngster. There are some who haven't the knack of imparting advice during the heat of a game and only antagonise their teammates. Yeah, I've heard that quite recently too. Here again, experience must be the only guide for you to decide which is the genuine article. I know that in my own early days, in the star-studded Everton side, there were several outstanding players who gave us youngsters confidence in ourselves. Their exceptional skill and fitness set a standard which was just the incentive we required. And even today, I can see in Tommy Lawton many of the mannerisms and tricks of Billy Dean. So anyway, that's there's a picture of the champions there. I don't know if I should show you. I mean, this is. I think no. What I'll do is I'll call it a day now because I've been going on for ages. Right, until the next time, I'll say away. Very tactical that, and up the Gooners.